Hey y'all, this is part 2 of Hard Questions for Bible Believers. Go ahead and give a disclaimer on this one. Some of these are explicitly about Jesus Christ, and if that kind of thing is offensive, even talking about it or discussing it, you might want to just scroll past this video, because I'm not out to try to offend people. I'm just out for discussion. If you don't want any part of it, that's fine. So there's this thing in the Bible, this idea that spirit can't die, that God is immortal, that angels are immortal, that, Satan is immortal, the devil. And so, spirit cannot die from what I see in the Bible and what most of the people I know see in the Bible. So, if spirit cannot die, and Jesus became flesh, because the Bible teaches that he pre-existed before he came in the flesh. He was changed to flesh, and then he died for 3 days and 3 nights, according to the Bible. And then, according to the Bible, God raised him back up and gave him his position of godhood again, which it's kind of curious to me, like I said in the other video, why does there always got to be death and blood and everything for transgression and everything? Why couldn't there just be education? I guess people would say, well, the Bible is the education, but I don't think. Well, let's just move on forward with that. You can comment in the comments on that if you want. So if spirit can die by making it flesh so that it can die, then why doesn't God just do that to Satan? If Satan's the root of all evil, if he's where all these horrible attitudes and things come from, then why not just destroy Satan? Why not? Yeah, maybe there's the logic that God uses Satan to do his dirty work or whatever, but I find a really big problem with that is and the Bible does say God creates good and evil, but I think it's in the sense of good and bad. It says God is light and in him is no darkness at all, and then a lot of things like that. So, but in truth, you have to wonder, why wouldn't God just destroy evil and then just educate everybody properly, and there'd be no negative influence on them or anything like that? We all know good people die all the time, and there's all kinds of people that do what the Bible considers horrible things, and they get to keep living, and there's no, you hear stories about these people doing these horrible things for years to various demographics or whatever. I don't want to be too explicit on the video, but children and things like that. And these people live for years doing these things, and some of them get away with it and die to ripe old age. So you just have to wonder why a loving, kind God would allow that. Why does God allow people to be born disabled or afflicted in some type of way? I personally don't believe that that's it's a horrible thing from our human perspective, but it happens all the time in nature where things just don't combine, quote, properly, and there's a flaw in the way things come together. And I don't necessarily think it's evil. I just think it's a horrible thing that happens. Sometimes it's all about your perspective too, because there are a lot of people that think that the good guys are evil, and a lot of people think that evil guys are good, and it kind of depends on your perspective and what you think is evil or what you think is good. Some of the other things I wanted to ask for perspective on was, why does the Bible always use rituals? And some of them are based on certain times of year and where the sun and the moon and all those types of things. The Bible said God made the sun and the moon for times and seasons and all those types of things. But astrology is condemned, but it talks about constellations in the Bible. That's kind of confusing. But I'm just kind of hitting the high points of some of these things that I didn't get to hit on the last video. How can anything operate outside the will of God? If God is omniscient and all-knowing and all-powerful, how can anything happen that he doesn't allow? So if you say that, you have to say, well, God allows horrible things. I mean, we know that. And, of course, I'm sure people think the devil has something to do with that, but according to the Bible, God's more powerful than the devil. So I don't know, some of these things, like my daughter realized when she was a little kid, she said, Daddy, snakes don't talk. And then I'm trying to like explain symbolism to a 3-year-old or whatever. But there's abundance on this planet. If we could all just like get along and figure out how to meet each other halfway or whatever, or cooperate. And I just find the religion, old think, like 1984 said old think, but I hijacked that and I use it in the sense of, things that we know better than now, that we have more information. This is the way we used to think about things before we understood them. And I feel like that's what a lot of the Bible is. And I feel like a lot of religious thought in general is like that. Instead of looking at things for what they are and learning more and more about it, we try to stay anchored in some type of ancient thought. And I think that's kind of holding us back from understanding properly. Who knows if we'll ever understand what this is. And I could be wrong about everything. I'm just going to say that right now. I mean, I could be totally wrong about everything. I don't think I'm not God. I don't know. I don't know. Why does God create hormones in people that give them like stronger or weaker sexual desires? If there's only a certain outlet for that. And what about people that can't find a mate? Are they just supposed to suffer and like longing or whatever? How does Jesus' sacrifice, how does him dying rectify anything? It's supposed to be like, we're really thankful that we've been forgiven, so now we'll try to change to do better maybe. I think that's the idea, but does that really happen? For everybody? And if it does, then that's good. If you think I thought that happened to me. I was convinced. I believed it was. Now I just think that I thought that. Why does God require martyrdom for his saints? Why they have to prove all the way to death that they're going to do God's bidding or whatever? It's hard, it's hard to understand some of these things to me. Why did God make diseases? The Bible specifically says that he told the Israelites that he wouldn't put the diseases on them that he put on the Egyptians if they followed his laws. So that's strange. And why did he make poisonous snakes and black widows and murder hornets or viruses, COVID, whatever, which we created COVID probably, even if it was by accident. It's funny, I used to say that COVID never would have happened if people were obeying the kosher dietary laws in the Bible, because they think that the blood of all these different creatures mixed, and that's how it jumped species or whatever, is the last thing I heard, that they thought it happened. Now, I'm not going to get on the conspiracy stuff on that. That was the official thing that was said about SARS, and I'm assuming that's what they thought happened with COVID too. But I don't want to be too controversial on this. I'm literally talking about whether God's real or not, but I'm trying not to be controversial. Yeah, so those are some of the basic things. This is part 2 of the hard questions for Bible believers. If you want to discuss it, comment down below, and just let's just keep it friendly and kind and respectful. And I mean, from any type of perspective, because that's the only way we can come to truth, is to truly like explore ideas and give our thoughts and opinions, and who knows, we might make friends like this. We might have community come up from this, and maybe we can connect some communities that are disconnected. But anyway, thanks for listening. This is part 2 of the hard questions for Bible believers. I may have more of these. I've definitely got more videos I'm going to make, but this might be all of the hard questions unless somebody else poses some that we can discuss. But thanks for listening.